Welcome to Real Crusades History. Today we're profiling King James I of Aragon, the Conqueror. He was born in 1208 and reigned from 1213 until 1276, making him one of the longest reigning rulers in history. When he was born, the infant James was carried to the Church of Our Lady at Montpellier. James tells us that he was brought over the threshold just as the monks began singing Te Deum Laudamus, and this was considered to be something of a sign of the babe's favor with God. James ascended the throne as a child. He grew up in Monzon, where he was under the care of William of Montredon, the master of the Knights Templar in Spain and Provençal, France. This was the beginning of a long association between James and the Templars, who would participate in James's crusades throughout the Iberian Peninsula. From the early years of his reign, James showed a deep interest in crusading, which he regarded as worthwhile, especially for its spiritual benefits, and as a means to defend Christendom against her enemies. Pope Gregory IX described James as entirely bent on prosecuting the war against the pagans, so that once their infidelity was uprooted from the land, the faith of Christ might be disseminated. In his autobiography, James emphasizes the temporal gains of his conquests as secondary to these higher ideals. Not surprisingly, James deeply admired Pope Innocent III, whom he described as the best pope, a man very learned in the matters that pertain for a pope to know, as well as the secular sciences. James began his career as a conqueror by crusading against the Moorish-held island of Majorca. James's knights swept through the Muslim defenses, seizing the island rather swiftly. The remaining Balearic islands fell equally fast, as the Arabs were simply unable to withstand the military capability of the Aragonese king. After these victories, James was hunting one day in 1232 with the master of the hospital, when the two began conversing about the conquest of Valencia. It wasn't long after this before James set out with his army to drive the Muslims from what was then known as the Kingdom of Valencia. After the fall of many Muslim towns and castles, the Great Crusade culminated in 1238 with the capture of the beautiful city of Valencia itself, long cherished by the Arabs as a thriving center of their culture. Seeing his banner raised on the ramparts, James I exclaimed, "We dismounted from our horse and turned toward the east, and tears fell from our eyes, and we kissed the ground, because of the great favor God had done to us." James' victories at Valencia solidified his reputation throughout Latin Christendom as a great crusader. King Louis IX, actually at this time, sent James a thorn from the relic of the crown of thorns of Christ. James was a patron of the University at Montpellier, and the growth of that institution is largely the result of James's funding and attention. He also oversaw the building of the magnificent cathedral at Lleida, which blended Gothic and Romanesque styles, betraying very little Arab influence. James's autobiography also reveals him to be himself knowledgeable in medicine. During the Northern Campaign against the Valencian territories, James personally attended to a knight wounded by an arrow. And we said, "Let us send for lint from the camp and draw the arrow out." And we did so. And we ourselves pulled out the arrow, and we put lint with water on the wound, and we had the wound bound with a piece of the shirt of a squire. And when the wound was bound, we asked him to go into the camp, and said that we would take charge there, and would excuse him from any service until he was better. Another noteworthy episode from James's chronicle, especially perhaps for a modern reader, occurred during the siege of the city of Valencia itself. Thus we went to Borriana, and when the moment had arrived, when we wished to raise camp, a swallow had made her nest on the pole of our tent. And we ordered our men not to take down the tent until she and her little ones had gone, since she had trusted us. This is an example of the chivalric code that flourished in the Latin culture of the High Middle Ages, in which knights strove to respect and protect the weak. James I of Aragon was devoted to his queen, Violante of Hungary. His autobiography makes it clear that he loved her deeply and respected her as an advisor. He insisted on her company in the camp during the wars against Valencia. James notes in one episode that he strove to comfort her and make her feel glad that she had come to be with him on the borderlands during this war. During his negotiations with the Muslim ruler of Valencia, James frequently asked Violante for her advice. When he was meeting with the Valencian administrator, Ali al-Baka, James insisted that no one else be present but his wife. James I of Aragon is one of the most noteworthy figures in the history of the Crusades. For more information on his life, I suggest you read the new translation of his Livre dels Faits, released by Ashgate Publishing as The Book of Deeds of James I of Aragon. Also, the book Reconquest and Crusade in Medieval Spain by Joseph O'Callaghan contains some interesting information on James's crusades.